To ensure that each member district can meet the unique learning needs of its students.
And would you kick off board member introductions as well?
Yes, I'm Shannon Andreessen and I represent Hopkins Public Schools.
I'm Mike Ramacall and I represent Minnetonka Public Schools.
I'm Karen Orchid and I represent Orono Schools.
Dan Chester was at the public schools.
Kim Ross, Eden Prairie Public Schools.
Good afternoon, I'm Michael Bergman, I represent Edina Public Schools.
Hi, I'm Heidi Marty and I represent West Tonka Schools.
And Casey, proudly representing St. Louis Park. And I'm Crystal Brackey from Richfield Public Schools. Our next item on the agenda is approval of this evening's agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented? So we have a motion by Kim Ross and a second by Shannon Andreessen. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The chair votes aye and the agenda is approved. Next, we have our open forum for community comments, and I don't believe we had anybody sign up to address the board this evening.
No, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And then next we have approval of our consent agenda containing routine business items that we approve as a group, unless there is an item a board member would like removed for individual consideration. Seeing none, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So
Second.
We have a motion by Mike Remicall and a second by Heidi Marty. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The chair votes aye and the consent agenda is approved. We move next to our favorite part of every meeting, which is sharing the success and recognitions. I'm so excited to start with a spotlight on a West Education Center student. So I'm going to invite Assistant Principal Jake Zern up to the mic to introduce our most special guest this evening.
Hello, my name is Jake Zern, and I want to say thank you to the board and leadership for having us here tonight. I am an assistant principal in my first year at the West Education Center. We have federal setting for high school transition students, in addition to an area learning center that serves approximately 90 students. Here tonight to celebrate with us is a 12th grader named Cindy Cuellar Cardoso, and I'm really excited to introduce her and let her tell her success story at West.
Welcome, Cindy. We are so excited to have you, and I'm going to ask you some questions if that's okay.
Yeah.
All right. Share a little bit about yourself with everybody here tonight.
My name is Cindy. I'm a senior at WALT program. I was born in Minnesota, but most of my family live in Mexico. Being away from so much of my family has been a challenge and something I continue to try and work through. Before coming to WALT, I went to high school at St. Louis Park High School. My goal on coming to WALT was to graduate and then eventually move back to Mexico with the rest of my family. I would like to hopefully work in the healthcare field of some sort.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how do you feel like your school, the program that you're in, and the staff has helped you achieve your goals?
My teachers helped me to understand the assignment and will help me with any questions that I may have on the assignments and break them down. Presley and Jordana will help me towards my career goals and social and emotional support that I may need. They are also both charged of the student council and encourage me to share my ideas and opinions to the council. My support staff, McNally and Aspel, help me with any accommodations that I may need on my work, encouraging me to get my assignments done, set goals for myself, or any other help that I may need on my assignments or any other areas. My school also has a work experience teacher that can help me find jobs when needed and support me in getting connected with the BRS. All these supports help me get to where I need to go and encourage me through this journey.
And how is West Education Center and all of the things that you just described different from your school before coming here?
At Wall, the environment is smaller and there's less people than my previous school. This gives me the ability to have more interactions with my teachers and support staff, as well the ability to concentrate in my classes more. I also find that my teachers at Wall really encourage me to get my work done and find ways to help me be successful. Being in a smaller environment allows me to have a voice and feel comfortable in my own skin.
And last but not least, what are your plans for your future?
Being an ER nurse or a nurse in Mexico, probably going to the Air Force too. I am currently taking a nursing class at CTC Pathways at HTC and working with Jordana on getting a paid internship. I really enjoy helping people and want to make a difference where I can.
Good job. You did absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for being here with your family. And I know you probably couldn't see her, but Principal Poppy Finley was watching on, just beaming the entire time that you were talking as well. So you have a huge community of support celebrating you tonight. Congratulations for all of the successes and good luck on all of your big dreams and plans for the future.
Thank you.
Good night. Okay, we are just going to move on from one wonderful thing to another and recognize our next Above and Beyond winner. So David Vandenboom, Principal of Northern Star Online, will introduce the March 2024 winner.
All right. Thank you, Madam Chair and Superintendent. It is my sincere pleasure to introduce the NSO Above and Beyond winner, Erin Smouse, who is a coach with NSO and has been for a few years. She is a wonderful support for implementing our instructional design model and embodies what we want teachers to be, including being a warm demander and really helping students to grow in their English abilities. Come on up.
Yeah. I guess, yeah, I can say a few words. Thank you, Dave. And thank you, everybody, for recognizing, like I know a lot of educators probably say this, I didn't expect this, and I love that we have it because it's nice to get recognized. But yeah, I love what I do, and I love that NSO gives me space to do what I love and also help other teachers and have a space to be a leader as well. I started in the district in 2016. So this is my 8th year. I found a home at NSO in 2018, and that was part-time into full-time in 2020. And I love the climate and the culture there, not just with colleagues, our students, and what impact we have on them throughout the entire state of Minnesota, and the relationships we build with our students and the colleagues, like in the admin support, and teachers have a voice there. So it's just so important to call NSO my home. And this past year was really rough. Last school year in regards to my mom was really sick with cancer. And so not only having the support from admin and teachers inside the classroom online, but also outside the classroom going through that, like, was so impactful and spoke so much to me. And I don't think Dave realizes how important that was or how supportive he was, and same with Talia and other English language arts teachers and the science teachers and everything. So thank you. That's my little spiel, but thank you, everybody. Thanks.
Congratulations. And of course, you spend part of your time celebrating other people. So thank you for that as well. And I want all of our guests to know that you are welcome to stay with us for the rest of our meeting. You are also welcome to leave now if you would like to go enjoy the rest of your Thursday evening. And you can leave at any time. Don't worry about the door opening and closing at all. All right, we are going to move on now to the next item on our agenda, which is in the Business Services and Labor Relations Report, and our monthly financial report presented by Brian Schultz, our Executive Director of Business Services and Operations.
Thank you, Chair Brackey, board members, Superintendent Dowd. So tonight we're here just to present the third quarter financials for the district. Just as a reminder, each quarter we do an official presentation to the board to go over those financials. And then the other months, they just go on the consent agenda, but it's similar information. I'm just going to share it with the board here for our March month end. So from an overall budget standpoint, we're at a very good position at this point in the school year in fiscal 2024. So overall, our revenues, we've collected almost $78 million of our budget so far, which is slightly above where we were the past 2 fiscal years at this point in the year, which is great to see. On the expenditure side, we're a little over 71 million we've spent of our overall budget, which is slightly below. And part of that happens with depending on staff, right? We do have a difficulty hiring staff and so forth. So that has a big impact on the budget depending on how many open positions we have, and that can fluctuate from year to year. So that's kind of why we're slightly below where we were in the previous year. But overall, we're in a great financial position from that standpoint. Then looking at it from our overall investments, we're in a great position here too, especially with interest rates being where they're at currently. You know, several years ago that we were making 0.3% on investments in school districts. It's relatively conservative investments that we can invest in, but now we're at 5% or over 5%, which can have a big impact on a budget when you have investments of $27 million. I mean, you can generate over $1 million just in interest earnings with that. And we do regularly look for the best rates that we can get with our excess cash, but we can only go for so far so we can maintain cash flow throughout the year. But overall, we're at a little over just under 28 million at the end of March in our investments, not including the long-term facility maintenance, which is on the right there. We did earn a little over $110,000 this month, and we did draw some investments out for cash flow purposes for the month. And then on the construction side, we do still have about $3.8 million remaining for LTFM projects. So I was here at the last board meeting talking about and approving the long-term facility maintenance plan program. These funds are paid through that levy that we do. But most of the funds, as you see, there's not any draws that occurred in March, but most of our projects within the bond happen over the summer. So that will start back up here in a few months. But overall, again, in a great position from a cash flow and investment standpoint. Again, I'd like to share just the graph, right? We're very cyclical. As I mentioned last time, we are trending higher. As you can see, the green line and diamonds are the current fiscal year compared to the last 2 fiscal years. And part of that is the reason for that, and especially in March, we kind of have a dip up or an increase there, not a dip, a slight uptick in March compared to the previous month. And that's around some of our special ed aid, the metering we get from the state. We're getting a little more based on the timing of that metering payment. And then we did get a significant NSO or North Star Online program. The timing of that was earlier. We got a large payment from MDE in March, where that didn't happen until April last year. So there's some timing that goes into effect. And then there was also a couple of grant reimbursements that happened in March that wasn't typical in some of the other months. So a lot of this can be timing, but overall, we're very cyclical. And we're a little higher at the beginning, in the middle of the month, and then slightly decreasing as the year goes until we get those final invoices out after year end. But again, very good position from a cash flow standpoint. So with disbursements and receipts, overall, we had a little under $4 million in our accounts payable to vendors. Payroll was just under 3 million for a total of just under 7. Again, very consistent with what we see from month to month and year to year. And then on the receipt standpoint, we did get a little just under 8.8 million, which was a little higher than we have in the past couple of years. And again, that kind of coincides with what I talked about with the cash flow. We're getting some of those metered payments, so those end up in the receipts each year. So that was a lot of the big change from previous years. And then looking at where are we at with enrollment. We start sharing this in December, and I shared some of those. So this shows where we're at in March for the fiscal year, and then compares it to where we were last year at the same point. So in our ALCs, we're at 241 ADM, which is 9 higher than we were in the previous year. So very good there. North Star Online is significantly over where we were last year, and we're continuing to see that. And in our projections, we were seeing that and predicting that was going to happen, just with some of our programming that's going on with North Star Online. Career and tech programs, we're at 68 ADM, which is 6 over last year. And again, all 3 of those are over what our budget was for the year at this point as well. So then going to special education, we're at 483 ADM, which is 16 higher. Here we're just slightly under where we projected it. We projected 490 students. We're just below where we projected to start the fiscal year. And then care and treatment, we're at 91 ADM, which is 23 lower, and I think we're about 50 lower than what we projected. But again, as I mentioned last time, it's hard to predict. It's based on need, what students need those services. So that's going to fluctuate from year to year. We try to do our best prediction based on trend analysis, that data that we have from prior years. So overall, again, looking good from an enrollment standpoint. And I did share, I want to say it was in February, just our predictions for fiscal 25. And we're predicting increases in most of these areas, especially in special ed, which is why we've been looking at all of our buildings from a space standpoint going into next year for just all of the programming that we have with the enrollment we're predicting. So overall, as of March, and 3/4 way through the fiscal year, overall financially, we're in great shape. I will open it up for questions from the board.
Are there any questions or comments?
This one might not be for Brian. It's just on the, do we have a sense of whether the lower numbers in care and treatment are due to capacity issues at those sites?
Well, like Dr. Rogers said, a couple things. Since we were at the beginning of the year when we were planning, one of our programs closed one of their sites, and then another program closed suddenly in August. So that was a reduction. And then, to be quite frank, the shortage of mental health professionals is felt everywhere, including with our partners providing mental health services. So because they have had diminished capacity to provide the therapeutic services, enrollment has been less, which.
That was exactly what I was wondering, and it's the thing that we just should continue to think about advocating for.
Yeah.
I just have a question on the special education side from a capacity, because Brian, you mentioned that, we know we've talked a little bit about it. I guess I don't recall, is there, if we considered continued growth in that area, given the demographics of all students throughout all of our districts and things like that, is it at a particular site that's like the most immediate concern, like at whether it's at South or if it's at North or West or what, that we have kind of like a a blinking light that says, okay, here's where that is, and that would be the priority, or is there something more systematically that we need to be thinking about in terms of where population comes, because we don't always know exactly where that's gonna happen.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't want to spend a lot of time, but that's when I hear that. I'm glad we're thinking about it, we're already planning for it, but I'm just not quite sure I understand strategically where the issue might lie or what we might have to do about it.
Now, south and north have our programs from K to 12. Those are the two sites that we really see capacity at in regards to referrals. So we are looking at, do some programs need to shift to relieve south really over to west, or even north over to ABEC? And then we are also entering into a facilities capacity study. So we can continue to work with our member districts in regards to, there's one component of referrals. And then what does capacity look like?
Yeah.
So we're at that point based on our current enrollment in physical space when we need to really do a deep dive.
Okay, great, thank you.
So one conversation we've had quite a bit, and was that at least, is how just transportation costs have been, passed down to school districts. Could you talk a little bit about transportation costs for police and kind of what environment we're seeing?
Yeah, we actually brought the bids that we went through this past spring. I believe it was in January or February. I can't remember which month it came to the board. But overall, all of our, we don't have our own fleet and drivers. All of ours is contracted service. So most of the transportation happens through member districts, transportation departments for the to and from. So our staff work with member districts, transportation departments to route those students. And then we do some midday transportation between programs. So then we do contracted services with bus contractors. Overall, right, we are seeing increases in the cost of transportation, just with our contractors. I was seeing that in my prior district as well. And I'm sure your member districts are seeing the same thing if they contract for some of their services. But overall, through some of the negotiation process in our bid process that we did get a lot of that cost down, and it wasn't significantly over the previous year. So overall, we did quite well with that. So if that answers your question.
Thank you.
Just to add a little bit, most of our transportation from the member districts to special education is reimbursed through the special education funding at 100%.
Correct.
And so a lot of our transportation is reimbursed. And then, in the last legislative session, that districts can get reimbursed for transportation to ALCs. And what's up in regards to language for us is that we also can get, right now it's just traditional districts are able to get reimbursed for transportation through ALCs, and we're asking for intermediates to also be included in that.
Their comments or questions? You're thinking,
Just on a follow up on that. Is that one of those items to where they didn't explicitly provide a cap budget for that bucket? It's like what the needs are, there's a reimbursement for that, or was there like, oh, we gave $10 million and once it's gone, which is typical. So I'm just kind of,
Yes.
even if we had that, there's still some limitation related to the reimbursement.
It's not like special education where it's 100% reimbursed regardless of that.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify that.
And it would need to continue in future.
Of course, in future
sessions
bienniums,
or-
of course.
Yes.
And the pot is not very large. It's $1 million statewide.
Really shocking. You're shocking. I didn't want to take any air out of that balloon. I just. wanted to-
Right.
Step forward, yeah.
It's better than nothing.
Correct.
The only thing I would add is I really like the PowerPoint. I think how this was all presented was really helpful. So just wanted to say thank you for that.
You're welcome.
So we do have a requested action before us, which is to approve the March 2024 monthly finance report. Is there a motion to do so?
So moved.
Second. We have a motion by Michael Birdman and a second by Ann Casey. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The chair votes aye and the monthly financial report is approved.
Thank you.
Next, we will go to our human resources report this evening, which is about hiring and recruitment and will be presented by Kevin Witherspoon, our Director of Human Resources.
It's coming back at me. Good evening, Chair Brackey, members of the board, Superintendent Dowd. I appreciate the time tonight to be able to talk a little bit about what we're doing in the Human Resources Department as it relates to recruitment. Let's see. So by the end of this presentation tonight, you'll get some ideas about how we attract external candidates committed to advancing the district's strategic priorities, engage communities through targeted broad-based recruitment efforts, provide advanced opportunities through grow your own programs and apprenticeship programs, and build lasting and mutually beneficial partnerships to create a pipeline for future staffing needs. Just a little idea of last year from July 1st, 2022 to April 11th, 2023, we hired, you can see here, we hired 155 total, 81 licensed, 58 non-licensed, 8 unaffiliated administrators, and 8 local 284. To compare, from July 1st, 2023 to April 10th, 2024, we hired 265 total hires, which is 101 more hires than the year before. So we are quite busy. And so I also wanted to then just point out a special shout out to Anna Kohler, who is our hiring coordinator, who's just done a phenomenal job. I could not coax her to come here tonight. But hopefully she's watching, and I just wanted to give her a shout out because she single-handedly, we support her, but does this work. And so it's amazing. So thank you, Anna.
That's a really quick question. I
Yeah.
don't want to interrupt your presentation, but it's because it's not listed here. The 256, how much of that is a net new gain of people versus us, the churn of the number?
Yeah, there's the churn.
So I would assume the majority of it is a churn as opposed to we have a lot of net new people, net new positions within the district.
We have new hires in the
Yep.
district. So positions that never were filled at the beginning of the year, for instance, or positions that are always kind of rolling and available. So a lot of ESP positions. So those aren't all, they're filling some vacant positions that are there. And then there is the people who leave us and we need to refill their positions.
Thank you.
So here's the current job posting boards that we utilize. And I just want to kind of point out, these are typical ones. Edzuna, top school jobs in Minneapolis Urban League specifically target diverse candidates. Rise Twin Cities, it might be on the next note. Rise Twin Cities targets veterans, candidates with disabilities, and BIPOC candidates. And then Handshake reaches all universities and colleges throughout the United States. Some of these are very traditional places that we post and have for a long time. Here are career fairs that we've either attended or plan on attending. We have limited the number of career fairs that we go to because most of our recruiting is online or virtual now. So we've gone to the Minnesota Educators Career Fair, which is typically the biggest one for recruiting efforts for education careers. We've done some virtual ones and we have those scheduled from now until the end of time. We'll keep doing virtual fairs. We did go to St. Cloud State. And then we're planning on going to Upper Iowa University for their spring virtual internship and career fair. What's been reported back is that we don't get a lot of candidates that come by our tables. In general, there's not a lot of candidates out there, so we will concentrate our efforts on virtual fairs. Additional strategies, Come Teach in Minnesota grant, the Teachers Apprenticeship Program. It's the first ever in Minnesota. Continuation of our Grow Your Own programs. We utilize Teachers on Call, and then we're setting up new partnerships with agencies. And so I listed BlazerWorks here, but we actually use BlazerWorks, Solient, ProCare, Sunbelt, Bilingual Therapies, and Spindle. We've developed relationships, have contracts with, and as the needs arise, we try to utilize them as well. If we've done all of our recruitment efforts and they're not working to fill positions, then we'll utilize them as well. I think maybe it's the next slide. We also utilize short call substitute licenses. So through Pelsby, you can get a short call sub license with a bachelor's degree, associate's degree or a year of experience as an ESP. And we utilize those internal candidates as well for that. And then they are paid a minimum of $200 a day for that. And for us, it usually translates to an extra $3 an hour for our staff. Oh. One of the things we are thinking about in terms of recruiting candidates is exploring some relocation expenses and costs. I know that there's some other districts that do that. And I do think it's time that we explore some of those, perhaps a grant that might be able to pay for some of those. But I think that is important if we are creating a pipeline for candidates that they have some support getting here. We are also investigating how the district might utilize international teachers to fill our vacancies. So we're working through the process to get permission to source candidates from the Philippines. And so I've reached out to an attorney that specifically works on that and other districts use, and we will work through that process to get it probably a 6 to 8 month process to get that up and running. So we'll start that. I did want to, I'm sorry, I went ahead a little bit. I did want to also talk about iTrack. So the Intermediate Teacher Residency and Apprenticeship Collaborative, iTrack, is anticipated to provide up to 10 new teachers every 2 years through a unique pathway of mentorship and coursework through Minnesota State Mankato. And I just want to give a shout out to Retha Burns from the Special Education Department and Brady Flees through the HR department have been working together to get that up and running. And we have our candidates, it's up and running and ready to go. So Handshake, we've utilized Handshake. This is the first year we actually have been utilizing Handshake in this capacity. And we mostly source our teacher vacancies through Handshake. So we can target students and alumni by using campaigns. We network with students for future hires as well. So a lot of it is about developing a relationship with candidates or potential candidates, ongoing communication when they're ready. We can participate in career fairs that way too. We do virtual events. We're working on setting up extra reminders before the virtual events so people can RSVP so we know who's going to be with us. Branding, we'll continue to brand with the new strategic plan and some of our materials and logos and such. We wanted to proactively search and for potential candidate pools, and really looking at those that might be maybe didn't go into education as their major, but have or will be obtaining a bachelor's degree and therefore would be eligible for a Tier 1 license. So we're working through that and marketing towards those individuals as well. And then also campaigns with students in Iowa, North Dakota, and Michigan, sort of around that area. Hopefully some of those students are Minnesotans and went to college there and would like to come home for a little bit. So, and then we also utilize for our non-licensed position, Indeed has been one of our greatest sources for that. We can do Indeed hiring events, plan additional events for ESPs. And then we can also now do Indeed resume search. So we source candidates, we can do outreach, and so far, I think we have 300 candidates that we've reached out by sourcing resumes. And we've had a lot of success with ESP hires using Indeed, so we'll continue to utilize that as well. And then some of the other ones that we utilize are LinkedIn and the Facebook and all of those traditional ones as well. What questions might you have?
I have a comment. I've been around 27 a lot of years. But I've only been on the board since January. The quality of people that I have seen since January is extremely impressive. And I've wanted to ask Superintendent Dowd, where are you getting these people? So whatever you're doing right. I have been so extremely impressed.
Thank you.
It's a good team.
It's a good team.
Michael.
Couple of comments. One on that. This is a great presentation of all the different things that you're doing. This is considerably better than my home district as far as we don't get as much detail about this, but this is one of the most critical parts of the strategy of execution, what we're trying to do. So kudos from that standpoint, number one. Number two, I didn't see anything listed here about Black Men Teach. Are we familiar with that organization? Are we working
are.
with them in any way, shape, or form?
Yep. So we've done some initial work. We don't have partnerships or anything yet, but that is on our radar as well.
I just think that their concept, I mean, I know that they've become somewhat popular, but like their concept, I wish there was a lot more entities like that for different groups of representation. I think that would be awesome if we had that for our Native American, if we had that for other kind of things. So forth. But I saw that as one element too. And then what I liked about what you said about relocation, I'm just thinking that even though we have a net or we have an idea about our neighboring states, would there be any value proposition or even testing to see in other states that do a very poor job of taking care of teachers, both in pay and modeling and whatever it is? I bet we probably could find some people who might want to come east from the Southwest, and so on and so forth. I'm just thinking that as we, especially we're doing stuff online, we might be able to have our window out a little bit further, from that standpoint, just because everyone's battling for a very small pool of people. I'm not suggesting you do this. I'm just saying like, that's a part of when I think about our target range. We might want to expand our mind a little bit as we continue to go further out.
Yep.
And I don't think there's any part of the country that we probably couldn't possibly attract somebody. Maybe not, I don't know.
We have to get over the winter is one thing.
But we can get over that, it's global warming, so we're getting, I'll just show them our statistics from the staff dinner.
Yeah, and we do have to
I
do some
get it.
education on tier 1 licensing and how to get a license in
Yeah.
Minnesota, but yeah.
Right, but or your notion of Minnesotans who are away and how to repatriate them back, I love that idea. They might be further than just Wisconsin and so
I
on and so
agree,
forth.
yeah.
So, but
Okay.
kudos, this is, I would like to take this to Edina and say, hey, where's our detail of this? Because every single one of us has this exact same challenge. So thank you.
I just had to, maybe go a step further with, the Blackman Teach question is, what are specifically, I know you mentioned one, or platform that you're advertising for positions on that is more targeted to BIPOC. But what other efforts are a part of the hiring process in intermediate 287 to attract more teachers and staff of color?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I didn't mention everything, but depending on the type of position we're looking for, we, reach out to colleges. We reach out to Katie Piquel, for instance, at the University Urban Leadership Academy for some of our administrative type positions. We're working on getting into communities. Tanya and I actually just talked a little bit before the meeting today too about getting into communities and then needing partners within our district who might be people of color who have communities or BIPOC staff that we can partner with to get involved with communities.
And are there, not that this is necessarily your purview, but then I know that a big part of being a good, like a destination district would be what kind of things do we have in place to maintain those hires?
Yeah, so right now our concentration really has been on the recruitment piece of things, and no doubt we do have to work on our retention strategies. It's a harder one, right? When there's positions that are unfilled, which one, you prioritize, but I do agree that is an area that we will work on.
Just to add, it is part of our strategic plan, and so it is working around improvement. What does that look like in training, in successful in the job that they have at district? So
Yeah.
that is part of one of our goals on the strategic plan.
And we're looking at expanding our onboarding too, so that it's more robust, so people know what to expect and have the training so they feel successful right away.
Do you expect to have an actual targeted retention percentage that you're trying to maintain strategically in that way?
We actually do, and I'm looking at, Director Zach here because she's doing the work around, positions to start collecting data.
Yeah.
Or in a more robust way about recruitment, retainment, why, and then getting profiles. And so there is a long-term plan. Being more data centered around it.
Yeah. I mean, I would assume that we all recognize or hope to recognize that retaining somebody you already have
Yes.
goes a lot further than constantly recruiting new people. Knowing that you still have to recruit new people to fill, because one of the things about retention is if we don't recruit the new people, then we're leaving the existing people overworked and, maybe, don't have enough support for them. They're interrelated. So, yeah.
Is there an opportunity with HBCUs?
There is. In my former district, I did go out and visit with HBCUs. I think the difficult piece is the expenditure of the money to go do all of those things, and then what can we offer people to come here, right?
Yeah.
And so that's the challenge.
Thank you so much, Kevin. This is, process I have spent a lot of time on. And it takes so much time and it takes a lot of trust, I think, to what you and Tony were talking about earlier, like people have to trust that we're doing this for the right reasons and good reasons, and it's not just to like get people in the door. And so I think it is so deeply connected to then what is the experience that people have when they're with us. So it is all interconnected, and I appreciate you, and I think Anna, right?
Yep.
For also being willing to share the specifics that you shared, because to Michael's point, there's a lot of people who are probably like, oh, what are, these are all sorts of places where we could be, recruiting from. So thank you for sharing your expertise, and resources, and know that we obviously appreciate it as stewards of 87.
Thank you.
Thank you. We move next to the board business section of our agenda, which is going to start with 6 policies, 3 that are second reads that we will be asked to consider approving, and 3 that are first reads before us for the first time this evening. So I will turn it over to Superintendent Dowd.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'm going to start with the second reading. Policy 522 Title 9 Sex Discrimination Policy. At the first reading, there were no changes, so I'm asking this to be moved forward for recommendation. Approval.
Are there any final comments or questions about this policy? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve policy 522 as presented? Thank you. We have a motion by Dan Genestro and a second by Kim Ross. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The chair votes aye, and the policy is approved.
Great. And the next policy is also a second reading of policy 526 hazing and reporting procedures. There were no changes after the first reading, so I'm asking for it to be approved.
Any final comments or questions? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve policy 526 as presented?
So moved.
We have a motion by Karen Orcutt and a second by Heidi Marty. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The chair votes aye, and the policy is approved.
And the last second reading is policy student discipline. There were no changes at the first reading, and so I asked that it move forward for approval.
Any comments or questions? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve policy 506 as presented?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Michael Birdman and a second by Mike Remicall. Any final discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The chair votes aye, and the policy is approved.
All right, as we move into the first reading of 3 policies, we'll start with policy 502, student searches policy. The last time that this was reviewed, so in District 287, we did have a procedure. We did not have a policy. So we're moving it because it is one of the mandated policies by MSBA. The last time this procedure was reviewed was 2015, and much has changed in regards to searches. So you'll see a lot of language changes that were recommended by MSBA. The numbering series in the general statement, there's a whole section with new legal wording and definitions. In the definition section of 3, reasonable suspicion has some added language. There's renumbering into procedures, and then under procedures, letter B, searches, and you'll see that I've added blue language. That is in alignment with what we call our weapon detection system and our current process. So just updating the language and removing old language like including Edgewood Education Center, and just leave it more broad to our sites. And then you'll see updates in the cross references and legal references. Students did provide feedback on this, and they provided overwhelming feedback that they are in agreement for the need for a weapon detection system, and that searches do make schools safer. They want to be present anytime someone's searching their stuff. either in the classroom or not, or as they enter into our building. They really do want, they had a lot of feedback around reasonable suspicion and making sure that we're not discriminating or that discrimination does not become bigger and what you'll know about District 287 is one of our historical practices is that everyone is searched. So they're not pulling up certain students to be searched. That the initial process is a search of all. I did remove MSBA model language had in language regarding strip searches and body cavity searches. That is something we do not do here. So that was, I did not add that language. Even though it was recommended by MSBA. And the staff, the administration asked for, sometimes our weapon detection systems go down or it breaks. And just really wanting to have clear practices. So we'll be developing an internal process in which if our weapon detection system is down, what would the wanding expectations and searching expectations look like?
May I ask a clarifying question? Just given they said that MSBA standard language is about cavity searches and so on and so forth.
It included that language, yes.
Is that actually in practice here in the state of Minnesota in any district?
None that I've worked in.
Okay, thank you. I found that quite shocking. But
So Superintendent Dad, you mentioned.
that's what I'm saying. That's what I said.
You mentioned that, all students will be searched. You don't single out. Can you kind of talk about, is it a class environment across the entire grade, entire school? Kind of how does that?
Yeah, so part of the reason that we do searches is some added language because of our 4 main sites that support students that may have had something on them in your home district. Sometimes students come to us because of educational needs. Sometimes they come to us because of a discipline need or presenting with either, drugs or weapon or something like that, or a significant discipline issue. And so what has been a practice is that we do searches for everybody that comes through. And all of our staff also go through the weapon detection system. So it's a universal practice for everybody coming into 4 main sites.
Then if a student walks into a building, and there's suspicion that they have a weapon or any kind of contraband or nefarious object on them, are they singled out and searched, or is that every person who might be in the building at that time, are they also?
So they go through our weapon detection system and then our staff will look through their bags. If they find something or later find something on a student, they might have in a classroom, they might have a next level where they do a deeper search in a private area, usually into the office. They'll just escort the student into the office and they'll empty out more things if something was found.
Thank you.
Michael?
Oh, I'm sorry, please.
Shannon, then Mike, Michael.
I just wanted to quick mention, I think that this is a great policy and a really good equalizer, but I'm wondering if we could just get an idea of what kind of impact that has on staffing and time that it takes to do those.
Yeah.
Universal searches.
Yeah, that's a good question. It takes staff. And so that is just part of, if you go into buildings in the morning, it is just part of the protocol. So everybody has active supervision once students come on property. And so there'll be staff assigned to watch the weapon detection system as also to search bags. And the unique thing is that our students come at staggered times within a lump, but the transportation, we can have multiple buses and 12 districts dropping off. And so they're not always there at the same time. And so it moves really fast. They're very well trained. And I would say a student can go through in less than a minute with everything. It's pretty fast. Yeah. And anytime we do a get on the bus, we can share that as part of the experience. So you can see what it looks like.
When we were at South last year, one of the gentlemen talked about that, how the process has gotten better with the new system versus the old system and so on and so forth and that. And then people seem to be more accepting
Yeah.
of how it was being done, as opposed to before where it was a much more arduous process.
Just a minor application, the senior section. Part B, administrative search of the certain scans. You had mentioned that specific site names we would just to clarify, just because it's a change. However, the very first sentence of that section says below grade school.
Oh. Mhm.
Good catch.
Thank you.
Michael.
The one thing I didn't notice, I saw one part, but it's notification. So if a student, not through the universal search, but if to Dan's example, there was something that came up and more needed to be done, is there, it didn't pop out at me what the notification is to the home.
Oh.
Back to the parental notification about that, if that's required or if that's part of the policy procedures. I didn't see anything with that, so I didn't know if there was or was not something associated with that.
Yeah, so it's more in our procedures. If we do find something, there's always a notification to the
Okay.
police. If it is a weapon, a gun, it will be a notification. to the police.
Right,
As-
that I
as
saw
well as
clearly.
the-
Got it, okay. Thank you.
But I think what that brought up for me is, so they are notified if something's found, but they don't have to be notified just because of the search. Like if there's a search and nothing is found. That's what.
Yeah, so we notify that you have to go through the weapon detection. Our annual notification indicates that you have to go through the weapon detection and that your bags to be searched.
But I think if somebody is in a circumstance where they're through the weapons detection system and then it comes up, and so there is an additional search, like the example Dan shared, where they're brought into the office.
Mhm.
Is there notification if nothing is found, just because the act happened of that additional search, right?
Like
That's what
it's
you
the
were
search
asking.
itself,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
notification.
I would say with that, I would answer no.
Any other comments or questions? All right, good discussion and good. So can move on to the next one.
All right, the next one is policy 524, internet acceptable use. Again, this was we did have a policy. The last time it was reviewed, it was 2015. So you'll see significant changes in the MSBA. A lot of it was more on the original policy in 2015 was more on the devices. And this is also talking about internet access. So when you get onto any of our internet, you also need to follow the rules regardless if it's our device or not our device. And so you'll see changes in the numbering, the general statement, removing old language and updating with MSBA. Under 3 limited educational purpose, again, bringing in the internet access. In section 4, the use of technology, all of that old language was deleted because in the new recommendation, they have a whole new section on what's unacceptable. And so it's removed and added section 5, unacceptable uses, which you can see is quite large. Some renumbering for 6 with filter and again, taking away old language because it's covered now in the new section 5. Some added sections here, 7 with consistency with other school policies. Renumbering, limited expectations of privacy, plus adding more recommended language from MSBA. Adding sections 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. I know you all read that, so it was a lot. One thing I would like to acknowledge is 15 cell phone use. As you know, this is a hot topic, I'm sure in your districts too. This will allow, we have many programs in District 287. And some programs, students do need their phone, they're either driving themselves or have, support with transportation that's not with a member school district. And then we have programs where, cell phones are really just not needed. And so this gives administration authority to say this is a no cell phone program. And we will work with our administrators, and we've gotten feedback from our administrators saying, you know, in some programs, we need to have a no cell phone strict policy. It's leading to social disagreements, arguments among staff. There's just communication that's inappropriate in the educational setting. And so what we will work with our principals, one, we wanted to talk about certain programs, not having cell phones because it's disruptive. This policy gives them the authority to do that and help communicate with families, communicate with students before we institute any kind of no phone policy. The students absolutely didn't want a no phone policy. And so this is flexible in that language too. So I want to acknowledge the students. We're not really, the MSB policy is recommending no cell phones in schools. So this is a compromise for some programs over others. And some students wanted to use their cell phones during lunch. So this is a little bit of a, I would say, a mix, trying to support the rules of the programs and support the students being fully engaged, and also recognizing some students might need their cell phone. So that's the hottest topic on this one for our students and staff.
Thank you. Comments or questions? Can imagine it's a hot topic.
I think the comment that I have is that in all the school district, we found that we had a lot of resistant parents. So. that's Communication. Thinking. So. There are a lot of some issues.
Yeah, we have this is her second year at the middle school, and it's like no cell phones. And a lot of parents don't like it, but we have a radio system in the school where very quickly a parent can call the office, the nearest staff member to where that student is in the building is contacted to go get them, bring them. So it's changed the dynamic a lot in terms of focus for students.
One thing I saw that I just found it interesting was under section 8. Section 8D, it's about limited expectation of privacy. Where it talks about the parents may have a right at any time to investigate or review the contents of their child's files, email files in accordance, blah, 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 blah. I hadn't seen something like that before. Not that it doesn't exist, but even exist in Edina's policies. I was just sort of surprised by, is that standard SBA language, or is that typical in everyone else's district, or?
Yep, it also aligns, I don't know if it's in your internet use, but it aligns with our record policy that you just approved at the last one, is that parents at any time can request to see their child's educational records, and educational records now include emails, anything electronic.
Okay, maybe that's where I can see the correlation with that. Got it. Thank you.
I think my one question, it goes back to, I think the attempt to thread the needle, right? That like, it's okay for some programs and not for others, perhaps even in the same building. And what that would be like to manage and communicate feels very challenging. And if that is the decision of the team, I respect it. It makes me wonder for students who, you mentioned the travel example, right? Or like navigating public transit themselves for a variety of reasons, and having a cell phone, I think, is an important resource. But then they would get to school and not be allowed to have their phone. Is there a practical way to have a safe place for them to check the phone in? Then I feel a lot better.
Yeah, so part of the protocol in my lived experience in other schools is that we have bins. And
Okay.
kids, they bring their phone in, they bin it, and then they go to school, or they go to class, and then at the end of the day, they get it out of their bins. And so it is a coordinated effort to do, but we can easily do it.
I would feel better knowing that that was an option. But
So with parents being able to request like the records of what their child perhaps has, done on the internet. I guess I'm just would want to know a little bit about that because I'm sure, websites are blocked on the internet in these different in different schools and buildings. So I guess I'm just trying to understand, is it that the student, searched just simply if they made the decision to search for something that was inappropriate? Because I'm just trying to understand, the difference then between the fact that they clearly didn't see anything that would be inappropriate. Is it the fact that they had the audacity to search if it were, gonna punish them for it? I just want to understand that kind of in the first place.
So parents can request, will email, like using the district, if our students have a district email, they have access to it. It's considered an educational record. So if they're communicating with either parents, other students, or staff, parents have access to any email that is part of their student's record. If there was, let's say, a concern, we have wonderful technology team that you met last board meeting and our firewalls, but let's say there was something that came up that our technology team said, this computer is searching, it'll even pull up for anybody searching on our internet. And then we would try to find out who it is. And then the parent could say, I don't think that was my child. Could you provide me proof?
Oh, I see. Okay.
And then that's where that would come into.
Okay. Is there a history of students being able to maybe getting around some of the filters and locks that we have on them?
I really think schools do a great job. And I'm also very amazed at how tech savvy our students are.
Oh, yeah.
And so, I
It
can't say
happens.
I can't say it never happens. But then we always learn from anything, right?
So we've been having a lot of conversations in our district about screen time and all these things. And one concept that really sticks with me is intentionality, right? In terms of the use of technology in the classroom being intentional in terms of the pursuit of learning, whatever it might be. The other thing that I found really interesting in this policy was the language about, and if the kiddo has the device at home, it's the parent's responsibility, just as with any other device at home, to monitor their usage and what they're doing, that this is really a partnership between families and the school to help kids leverage technology to enhance their learning. I mean, I've seen some amazing things. Like I was in a classroom where the kids this was like 5th grade, on their iPads they were studying environmental issues. And they had a simulator where they could say, what happens if the population of this species increases for some reason? And then it showed them, oh, well, this species, this is the predator of that species. So the predator and so they watched the simulation and they played with it, and then they put it down and they talked about it. So it's like there's really creative and intentional things. And so that's kind of how we're thinking about technology.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, good discussion on this too. And then last one for the first read is the wellness policy.
Yeah, so this is policy 533 wellness. Actually, this policy was reviewed. We did have a policy. It was reviewed in 2021, so there's very few changes in alignment with MSBA. You'll see the changes in our numbering system. In the general statement, there was an added section D. Just really promoting physical activity. That's something that we talked about at the wellness, district-wide wellness committee. What does physical activity look like? Gym, walks outside. And so making sure that that's part of wellness. Wellness is not just our food, but it's also that social emotional learning. It's all the things we do in mindful movement. It's also what our students eat every day. And then F had some added language about just clean, safe, and pleasant seating and adequate time for students to eat, which I know is a hot topic, that there is time for students to eat. And then what was added was really legal references and local references. As part of this policy, students are to provide input, and our nutrition staff does do samplings for students to try new foods and determine if they want to add it to the menu. We also provided parents an annual notice of any feedback on our lunch programs or wellness. We also did a little bit during our strategic plan. Actually, food was a hot topic, and I think you all remember that from our strategic plan. And it's not just the exotic food, it was the portion sizes and really bringing more culturally diverse foods is something that parents have also recommended. And so we do have a district-wide wellness committee. They actually just met today too, and they are part of the group that does the triannual assessment. And they meet quarterly to talk about wellness in the district. And Dr. Laj Rogers leads that group. Questions about the policy?
See? Like there are any comments or questions on this one?
Right, and that is it for policies tonight.
Thank you to everybody involved on the policy team. And we'll look for these three that we just learned up for first reads to come back for second read and possible approval. The only other things that I'll share as part of the sort of board updates are a number of events coming up. These are in the calendars that are part of the board packet, but always just like to highlight significant things. May 9th is the annual retirement celebration for folks who are retiring from Intermediate District 287. That is from 5 to 6 p.m. here in the District Service Center up on the 3rd floor. And then the board meeting will begin at 6:30 p.m. on Thursday, May 9th. We have a routine board meeting on Thursday, May 23rd. The first week in June is when there is a whole host of graduations taking place across the district, which is just an absolutely amazing experience. The calendar of all the graduations is in the board packet. Juanine is going to be sending out an email where it links to essentially a Google form, I think, where you will be able to indicate which ones you are able and plan to attend. So please just make sure you fill that out so that the programs and the schools know who to expect at any given graduation ceremony. And I promise it is well worth your time. And then June 18th is the final get on the bus of this academic year, but it's actually a summer school program. So it is the Get on the Bus to the West Suburban Summer School. So again, just making sure that's on your radar. And then finally, June 27th, we will have a board retreat followed by our regular board meeting at 6:30 p.m. And that is our last board meeting before our traditional summer break. We do not meet as a board in July, and we do not have a sort of first meeting in August. So our next meeting would not be until late August. So just wanted to make sure that is on everybody's radar, and especially that you're able to be here on June 27th. Juanine, Superintendent Dowd, anything that I missed on the run through of upcoming events?
If you have a question
Go ahead.
about the retirement, what time is that?
From 5 to 6 p.m.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. We will move next to once around the table for any updates or information that board members would like to share with one another before we move into closed session to end our evening. So is there anything that people have for once around the table tonight? Kim.
So I'm happy to announce that we have a new principal at Eden Prairie High School. His name is Jason Anderson, and he comes to us from Bloomington Jefferson. high school, and he actually was a middle school and high school social studies teacher for 8 years in the Brooklyn Center Community Schools. So we welcome Jason to our district and look forward to him doing great things.
I'll just say that I know he wasn't here last time, but Dr. Hines has already started
Oh.
hanging out in St. Louis.
I'm well
for-
aware.
I know. Sorry. But not-
It's okay, we're happy to share. our
Yeah,
wealth
thank
with
you.
Dinah.
So we've got her for just some days of onboarding and before she starts. So I got to have my first meeting with her yesterday. That's great. So I'm really looking forward to having her. We're not that sorry.
Any other announcements? Okay, with that, we will move to the last item on our agenda this evening. So as always, for anybody who's watching, know that when we move into closed session, we are going to have discussion that is private under Minnesota law. When we adjourn the closed session, we're going to come back to open session, and the only thing that we will be left to do is adjourn. So in just a moment, the recording for tonight's meeting will end. So under Minnesota statute 13D.03, the school board may hold a closed meeting to consider a strategy for labor negotiations. Is there a motion to go into closed session for this purpose?
So moved.
We have a motion by Shannon Andreessen and a second by Heidi Marty. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The chair votes aye, and at 7:43 PM, we will move into closed session. Obviously, take a few minutes to close the room. Caroline, thank you for being here. Good night.
Do these things, these roll down the line?